ourselves sometimes, and I think that's something that's good just to keep an eye on. I think that sometimes people who are avoiding certain foods are also box themselves out of eating the foods of certain cultures, and I think that can be a shame. If you're carb free, then how are you going to enjoy Chinese New Year, which is upon us tonight? What about the dumplings? So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not a health authority, and I totally respect anyone's choices to eat the food that makes them feel well. That's great. I think it's great if people can find their own pathways. But I also think that there is such a beautiful way of connecting to all kinds of people through all kinds of food. And personally, I love to open myself up to that rather than close myself off. And I suppose that's letting go of a little bit of control and trusting in, the things that are put before me or things that I want to experiment with. But there are joys down that road as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know personally that I have some issues with certain foods that really give me a little bit of digestive problems, and I know that it definitely affects me socially when I'm out and having to order certain things, and then it can bring up anxiety around that, and yeah, I just wish that I could just choose anything, and I'm hoping that some point in time I will be able to. But and that's just on a more of a me having a health issue. But with some people, it's not even about any health issue. It's just about a body image thing or following a certain celebrity's path on what they've done with their food choices. And there's actually no real justification really behind it. And so I feel that in those situations, they're possibly missing out on all the positive well-being things that can come with, like you said, experiencing different cultural food, dinner parties, being out in groups and having things revolve around food. And there is, I think, a lot of people making those choices for reasons that are not necessarily, they might justify them as health reasons, but often they're not necessarily health problems that they've got. It's just society conditionings maybe.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tricky. There's a flip side as well, where I think a lot of people that are cooking for friends or a lot of restaurants that are catering to people with different dietary needs and preferences are open to things. So, for example, it's gluten-free, like if you've got celiac disease, and restaurants and food producers are catering to you a lot more, and I think that's fantastic. If you're vegetarian, that's not a fringe choice anymore. There's it's usually pretty easy to eat out now as a vegetarian. So I think it's about that balance, isn't it, and about meeting in the middle, where of course if someone's got if food makes somebody feel a certain food makes somebody feel bad, I'm certainly not saying just eat it anyway. Like, I don't want anyone to feel sick because of what they're eating.
Of course.
But I just think it's more about this dividing food up into good and bad, where I think it can just lead us down some unfortunate pathways.
Yeah, definitely. So so there's some of the negative implications, about the control and all the shame and the guilt and the anxiety that sometimes all these, I suppose, restrictions can happen when we, with our food, and when we go too far down that sort of diet or non-food for pleasure pathway. But let's talk more about, which I'm really interested in, and I think doesn't get enough coverage when it comes to talk on food these days, is all of the positive implications. So all of the positive emotions that are evoked when we think of food, and the senses and all the different senses that we feel, and the feelings we get with our soul, and the joy and the creativity and the curiosity and adventure and all of these amazing things which even just talking about now with you, I can, sort of feel excited and connected, and make me feel so much more joyful, as opposed to when I'm talking about all of those negative things and I'm feeling a little bit more serious and a little bit more, Whereas, even just mentioning those other things feels exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look, so many things spring to mind. I know when we spoke just in advance of this chat on the weekend, I was on my way to my parents' place for our fortnightly family dinner where my extended family gets together and, perhaps we bring something. Mum loves cooking, so she puts on a beautiful spread most of the time. And it's, it's simple. It was just pasta with a couple of different sauces on Sunday night, some nice bread and a cake because one of my nieces had a birthday. So it was... I suppose it's not about being grand or being fancy or even expensive. It's just about the fact that we're there and sort of sharing the stories of our last couple of weeks and just, singing happy birthday. And it's just relaxing and you can just be yourself and just relax into it. So I suppose it's those pleasures of the table. Or, if you think about, I love my favourite photos in cookbooks are always the ones where you see, the hands going into the food and you just have this idea of the happy conversations around it. My latest cookbook is called Entertaining and it's 13 themed menus, so by cuisine or occasion, so Mexican, Spanish, party. I've got a lovely ladies' lunch menu, which is my secret favourite chapter. And I suppose my vision with that was creating the recipes that people might want to create those vibrant occasions where it's sure it's about delicious food, but it's really just about being there, about being around the table and about connecting with different cultures through food or just having something yummy and seasonal and, full of flavour. So yeah, it's all those things. It's about creating those occasions where you've got those happy memories and those connections, remember that time when, and the jokes that come up and the happy memories, creating your own memes, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, all of the occasions that people, that become big are generally all around food. So when there's a birthday party, there'll always be something around food. When there's, a specific, say, religious holiday in a certain culture, it's generally around food. Even Christmas and all these things seem to be around food and they're about celebration. And it's like there's this permission that people give themselves when there's a specific celebration. So it is Christmas or it is someone's birthday.
Yeah.
But I think that perhaps what is happening in the culture here anyway, maybe not as much in Europe, but is that these times are becoming isolated to the celebratory occasions as opposed to celebrating every day of your life, or, not every day, but most days, and incorporating food and sharing and connection as a part of that.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I mean, I think we're so lucky here in Australia, and then, it's not just Australia, but I'm thinking right now about tomatoes, and it is such a simple way to connect to the season and to produce and to that food story by just going to your local produce market or your local fruit shop, even your supermarket, and just looking at all the different tomatoes that are available right now and trying to find things that are grown in the ground, not hydroponically, and just getting, a big hit of that sunshine. So, something that I'm making at the moment is just a beautiful, simple salad with just a few different tomatoes. So get some of those beautiful, different coloured heirloom tomatoes. I might roast some lightly. I'll cut some fresh. I might quickly blanch some so you get these different textures and colours of tomato. I'll cut them into different shapes. I'll put them in a bowl and I'll toss them with some salt and pepper, a squeeze of olive oil, a dash of olive oil and a little drizzle of vinegar. And that is so easy.
Oh, God, you're making me hungry.
Well, it's just, that's how easy it is to be connected to the season, to produce, to where we are and what's growing around us. That's 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the roasting bit. You can just get some yummy tomatoes, cut them in different shapes and just lightly dress them. That is a celebration. Toast some bread, rub a bit of garlic on it, put some ricotta on it. That's a simple dinner, or a lunch for one. I mean, yum. I think I might have to have it today.
Yeah, I think I might too. Yeah, I mean, that's...
or just grill a bit of meat and have that for dinner. And it's, I guess great food and finding those connections to, who we are and where we are does not have to be super complicated, doesn't have to be something that you're stressing over or thinking hard about or looking at the nutritional tables about. I think seasonal food is full of vitality and nourishes us in a way that is goes way beyond knowing about the vitamins and the minerals and whatever else might be in that food in a chemical sense. I think let's look at the endorphins as well.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, just even when you described that meal, and you certainly don't need a birthday or a big occasion to be able to make that meal. That's like something I feel like I might even do for lunch today. And I've got a few different tomatoes actually in the fridge, and I might have to scoot down the street too. But just doing that and listening to your description of that, and it's just with basically one ingredient mainly. And, all the different senses started to come in, when you talked about the different, cutting it in different shapes, all of a sudden I could, see that, and that all of a sudden I was smelling different tomatoes and the different colours and all of a sudden I could taste it. And when you said the ricotta on the toast and, it just something so simple, and all of a sudden we're connected to our senses. We're connected, our soul gets excited. We are connected to the earth and what's in season and what's in nature. And I'm sure I could easily find a friend who would join me for that. So then I'd be connected to someone else.
There you go. That's so perfect. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think one thing that that your question sparked in me was this thought about the appearance of food. And I think because we are such a visual culture and, Instagram and, everyone's taking photos of all their food, and I certainly do, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think we are pretty connected to the appearance of food, and a lot of the so-called, healthy food, the nourish bowls and the chia puddings and whatever it is. I had a dish a couple of days ago that was called a banana garden. So these
what was
a lot
that?
of these. It was actually pretty good, but I was like, banana garden? That sounds so silly. I have to order it. So it was I guess a halved banana, like halved lengthways, and then all strewn very prettily with flowers and bits of crunch and seeds and all that sort of stuff. It was good. I'm glad the silly name made me order it. But I guess we are very visually driven, and a lot of pretty food is sort of conflated with healthy food. I think that's fine. We do eat with our eyes, but I think it's we've got to get beyond that first initial, that visual appetite, and then really get into the sensory nature of food, which may not be as photogenic, but just those if I think about that tomato salad again, and I think about the juices that are going to be in the bottom of the bowl once the tomatoes are all eaten, that's as good as anything, and you think about perhaps going back to maybe eating a similar kind of salad in Greece. Maybe it's got olives in it, maybe it's got some cucumber, maybe it's got a bit of feta, but then at the end of that salad bowl, everyone's tearing a bit of bread and dipping the juices in, and that is just as good as, the gorgeous appetizing salad when it's first presented.
Yeah, totally. And I think that even that image of people sitting around a table and dipping their bread in all the leftover juices, and it could be the juices of the salad and it could be the juices of the meat dish or whatever it is. It also, I think, in some way connects people even more, because it takes out that sort of very sterile sort of feeling of complete manners and very kind of uptightness, and it just brings fun and laughter and joy and sharing and all of those amazing things that food can do to bring people together, and also just help you even just connecting with yourself and feeling just, to be able to go in a group of people on a table and to dip dip your last bit in the sauce or in the juice of the salad or do all those things, you've got to feel comfortable in yourself and comfortable around the people with you. So it sort of allows you to